California is collapsing, and there are many reasons to why the state is collapsing. High costs of living and taxes, an unfriendly business climate, and poor job growth outside of government positions, homelessness. We can go on and on. If you look at the newest jobs in California, they are mostly government roles, while the private sector is lagging. Of the 156,000 new jobs, government positions accounted for 96.5% of the increase. This reliance on public sector jobs highlights a problem. A healthy economy typically grows through private sector jobs, but in California, private businesses are shrinking or leaving. California's business climate is also a major factor in this exodus. High taxes and complex regulations discouraged companies from staying. Numerous large companies like Tesla, Oracle, and Chevron moved their headquarters to other states, citing economic burdens. For businesses that remained, hiring slowed significantly, leading to one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. But this situation is not new. It all started 4 years ago. That's when, in 2020, California started collapsing because of a state's job growth that was well below the national average. Jobs in California had only increased by 0.1% compared to 1.5% in the rest of the country. If California had kept up with the national pace, it would have added around 300,000 jobs instead of just 30,000. This left California near the bottom in job creation rankings. One of the reasons for this lag in job growth was that many Californians were leaving the state. California had become so expensive that many low and middle-income households could no longer afford to live there, prompting moves to more affordable states like Texas, Arizona, Idaho, and Nevada. Housing costs were a big part of why people were leaving. California was ranked 49th in the country for housing affordability, and only about 20% of households could afford a median-priced home, which was over $600,000. The state also had the highest poverty rate in the country. One reason California didn't build enough housing was restrictive policies. These policies could be changed, but doing so would require political action and leadership that seemed lacking among current California politicians. The only real solution was for voters to hold these leaders accountable and choose new politicians who would push for real change, rather than just talk about it. California continued to collapse, not only with job and housing problems, but also with forest degradation in Northern California. California's collapse got even worse when in 2021, a major section of California's Highway 1 was destroyed by a winter storm that brought heavy rain and snow. According to the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, a debris flow from the hillside above the highway overwhelmed drainage infrastructure, causing water and debris to flow over the road and erode it, resulting in a complete washout of part of Highway 1 at Rat Creek, around 15 miles south of Big Sur along the scenic mountainous Central Coast. California Highway Patrol Officer John Urace, who was in the area on Thursday around 4 p.m., noticed that a part of the southbound lane had broken away and fallen into the ocean. Photos and drone footage showed a massive gap in the famous coastal highway. Caltrans workers discovered the debris flow and quickly hired Papeach Construction in San Luis Obispo County to help with repairs. The collapse happened about a mile south of an area burned by the Dolan Fire, one of last summer's major wildfires. Additionally, in 2022, California's steady stream of revenue began to slow down as state tax collections fell short of projections for 4 consecutive months. The Nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office estimated that there was an 80% chance California would face an $8 billion budget shortfall by the end of the fiscal year next summer. Although there was still some time for a potential recovery, this decline in revenue had already started to impact the state's financial decisions. In response to the anticipated budget gap, Governor Gavin Newsom took steps to adjust spending. He halted a planned tax cut for manufacturers, put a pause on expanding full-day kindergarten programs, and canceled unemployment benefits for undocumented immigrants, all due to the looming budget concerns. Newsom's actions signaled a shift towards more cautious spending as California prepared for the possibility of tighter finances in the near future. In 2023, California's collapse got more attention when the UCLA Anderson forecast outlined two possible paths for the national economy. In the first scenario, there would be no recession. Economic growth would slow but stay positive. Inflation would decrease. The job market would stay strong. And the Federal Reserve would adopt a more cautious approach to raising interest rates. The second scenario predicted a recession toward the end of the year, caused by the Federal Reserve taking strong measures against inflation. In this case, the Fed would deliberately slow down the economy, accepting some economic contraction and a rise in unemployment to bring inflation under control. The main difference between these two outcomes lay in the Federal Reserve's monetary policy decisions. The Fed had stated it would adjust its policy based on economic data. If data showed that the job market was still strong but inflation remained high, the Fed would likely choose a stricter approach to policy, tightening the money supply more aggressively. And in 2024, California has become a focal point of widespread criticism as the state grapples with a worsening homelessness crisis, a faltering economy, and a mass exodus of businesses. Cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles are frequently highlighted as emblematic of the state's struggles, with streets lined with encampments and public spaces plagued by safety concerns. Critics argue that high taxes, stringent regulations, and policies perceived as overly lenient on crime and homelessness have driven companies and residents to relocate to more business-friendly states like Texas and Florida. This brain drain and corporate flight are seen as exacerbating economic inequality, reducing the state's tax base, and further straining its resources. As California's leaders attempt to address these multifaceted challenges, public trust continues to erode, leaving many questioning the long-term viability of the so-called Golden State. For now, situation is very messy.